out of the whole of the Middle East, the most brightest, intelligent students actually come from Palestine.
What a ridiculous statement to make. How do you know that? And anyway, how are they able to study so well, given they've been living in a starving occupation and in an open prison for the last 20 years, we've been told by people like you?
They see education as an act of resistance.
Brilliant.
And that's why some of the most brightest intelligence minds in the Middle East come from Gaza.
It's just amazing what people are willing to do to get attention. So here again, Greta is looking to bring a flotilla to Gaza against the rules, against everything that she learned for the first time. And yet she wants to grandstand this to see how Israel is going to respond. We also have the ongoing question of why don't the Gaza civilians get an opportunity to leave Gaza just temporarily, get out of harm's way, get out of the battlefield. Any other war that has been going on, the local citizens just pack the bags and leave, just like the Ukrainian war. When Russia attacked Ukraine, millions left. They may or may not come back. So let's listen to this interview together and we'll discuss it afterwards. Kindly subscribe to our channel. Just hit the subscribe button so that we can grow a little bit of light. Will push away a lot of darkness.
The Home Secretary, I didn't know we expedited anything in this country. I made it actually happen and work efficiently. UK visa scheme being set up for students from Gaza and other young people fleeing the war there. Let's talk to pro-Palestinian activist Yvonne Ridley about that. Good morning to you, Yvonne.
Morning, Julia.
Thank you for joining us. I'm going to take a deep breath before this. I'm not entirely sure that we want to have a bunch of people, whether they're studying for a master's degree or not, coming from Gaza to come and study in this country. If we're going to be getting people out of Gaza, a war-torn region, state, whatever you like to call it right now, should they be the priority?
Well, when you look at the quality of the students that we're talking about students that have won scholarships to Ivy League universities, Harvard, Oxford, Cambridge. These are incredibly bright, gifted, talented people, and anywhere else in the world that they would be welcomed with open arms. But unfortunately, because it's Gaza, and they're not white, and they're not white.
That's why
there is sadly this.
Isn't it a concern that we're talking about people living in an area where they have been subjected to the most extraordinary propaganda from Hamas terrorists, and people are understandably wary about people coming from that region and possibly staying and then bringing their families along, and people are saying, I'm not sure we want these people here. I mean, Egypt don't want them. Jordan don't want any more of them. The Saudis don't want them. The Qataris only want the very rich ones, the billionaire leaders of Hamas, the Palestinians, those ones. They don't want ordinary Palestinians. Why did those countries not want them?
Well, I don't know. You'd have to ask them. But
well, we know why they don't want them, don't we?
We should welcome these students because across the whole, out of the whole of the Middle East, the most brightest, intelligent students actually come from Palestine.
What a ridiculous statement to make. How do you know that? And anyway, how are they able to study so well, given they've been living in a starving occupation and in an open prison for the last 20 years, we've been told by people like you?
They see education as an act of resistance.
Brilliant.
And that's why some of the most brightest intelligence minds in the Middle East come from Gaza.
So being subjugated by the Israeli state makes you brighter?
On education.
So no, you said it makes them brighter. You said they're brighter because they're resisting, or they're resisting presumably the Israeli state. So are they brighter because of the Israeli state subjugating them?
No, not at all. The Israeli state has contributed nothing positive towards the occupation of Gaza.
They've been providing electricity, clean water, aid. They've done lots over the years.
Well, I said to you last time, Julia, aid was not getting in, and I was right.
No, over the last 20 years since they left. They've been occupied by Hamas. They've been in charge of Gaza, not Israelis.
It's not occupied by Hamas.
Is it?
It's occupied by Israel. And
Israeli troops left in the mid-2000s. Hamas have been in charge. Elected in the mid-2000s, not elected in the last 20 years, but
democratically elected in 2000.
And for a 20-year term, it would appear.
Yes. Well,
do you consider that the legitimate government of Gaza?
Very hard to hold an election during a war.
There wasn't a war for 20 years. There wasn't a war on October the 6th.
Sorry?
There wasn't a war on October the 6th, 2023.
There was a brutal occupation. Don't you read your history?
No, there wasn't an occupation. The Israelis left in 2005. There was an election in 2006.
They occupied the land, the sea.
No, they didn't. No, there were no Israeli forces in Gaza.
You cannot move around freely, even when Israel wasn't physically there.
They were still occupying it. So Israel is able to be both there and not there. They're Schrodinger's state, aren't they?
If you had visited Gaza during the Hamas rule, you would see that it is occupied by the air. There is an airport there which has been bombed to hell, and you can't fly into Gaza. There is a port, a seaport there, which has been there for years, and you can't sail.
And why did the Israelis make that access so difficult? Any thoughts on that?
Because they want to ethnically cleanse and wipe out.
Because Hamas was bringing in items to be used as weapons against Israel. You know that perfectly well. What do you make of Greta Thunberg and her mates off on another flotilla trip from Barcelona? They left on Sunday to go to Gaza. They had to turn back because there was too much wind. You couldn't make that up. They've now set off again yesterday, heading over to Gaza. They say they're bringing aid. Of course, they're not bringing much aid. There's more food on there for them than there is aid they're actually going to take. They hope to actually get to Gaza this time. The Israelis have said, if you try and get into our waters or even the waters around Gaza, we will arrest you. And this time, you're going to go to some prisons that you may not want to stay in. You won't be quickly deported. Is that legitimate? Is that justifiable?
Well, in a few hours' time, I will be flying from Manchester to Tunisia, and I am joining the flotilla. And furthermore, Italian dock workers have said, if Israel touches one boat in this flotilla, which is going to have hundreds of boats, by the way, if Israel touches one, they will shut down all of Europe. This is called solidarity, international community coming together for the people of Palestine. Israel is going to get so spanked, which is why it is accelerating its genocidal behaviour.
Genocide. We haven't got time for all of that nonsense. Do you think that the Israelis should let Greta and her mates arrive in Gaza and maybe leave them in Gaza?
Well, I will be on that flotilla, and if I'm left in Gaza, I won't be afraid, other than for the Israelis. What will be interesting is I'll be the first Western journalist allowed into Gaza.
No Western journalists have been into Gaza. They've been embedded with the IDF, same as any other war zone.
Well, we've seen the embedded IDF. They're not allowed to talk to the Palestinians. They're not allowed to film.
Well, I know people like Andrew Fox who've been in, and they've been in with the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, and they've spoken to local people. I know a number of people who've been in who've been able to do that. So that's simply not true.
The Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, which doesn't photograph any of its aid workers, doesn't photograph any of the recipients of the aid workers, and is being assisted in security by ISIS recruits, recruited by ex-convict Yasser al-Habab, who comes from a very large family in Rafah.
Well, you either want people to get aid or you don't want people to get aid. It seems to me that most people on your side of the debate would rather there wasn't any aid going in, because it gives you a bit more of a cause. Look, we'll have to do this again. What day are you actually flying out to join this flotilla?
More than 1,000 people have died.
No, I've only got about...
trying to collect aid.
Yep.
That is not how you deliver aid.
Oh, yeah, OK. Yvonne, when are you leaving to go and get on this flotilla?
And that's something else.
When are you I've got 10 seconds left. When are you leaving to get on this flotilla?
I am leaving to go on the flotilla. I'll be on the...
okay, I'm not going to get an answer in time. We're going to get sort of... Tell my producers so we can actually... we'll talk to you again before and get a bit more detail, and we'll just have someone to do the fact-checking.
Just incredible. When you think about this flotilla coming, and you think about how people become so myopic, so narrow-minded, and she just cannot answer any of the questions. She's talking about Israel occupying Gaza. We've been out of Gaza for 20 years, since 2005. We're 2025 now. We have not set foot into Gaza. And she just cannot admit that Hamas destroyed Gaza and any potential for any progress for the Gazans that are living there. Well, we certainly hope that this flotilla, which is totally useless and just a publicity stunt trying to paint Israel once again in the public eye as being the aggressor. Well, hopefully they will respect the international laws. There is a war going on right now in Gaza. You don't come into a war zone with just to be able to make a publicity stunt. So let's always understand when we see such interviews and you see people who are just so disoriented and the truth is so distorted that they start believing their own lies. It's just baseless hatred, untruths, myths, and lies. But ultimately, truth always does prevail. And God willing, the truth will prevail here as well. God bless you. God loves you.